And how do you think the education system and experiences at Stanford compare to those at IIT Delhi? Both amazing institutions in their own right. But what are some of the goods and the bads or pluses or negatives?
See, I think one of the biggest factor in the experience that you have in a college is your peers, right? I think my peers at IIT were way smarter than my peers potentially at Stanford, right? Like so, but that being said, my peers at Stanford were far more motivated than my peers at IIT. At IIT, nobody really wanted to work that hard. Everybody was sort of feeling like they're really putting a lot of effort. Now they want to relax. And like nobody was really trying to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
At Stanford, it was very, very different. And I think it automatically happens in when you're going for post-graduation or graduate studies, because that's your decision.
Yeah.
Undergraduate most of the time is not your decision, right? Like that's something that you have to do.
Yeah.
And which branch you take is a lot of time is not your decision as well. But when you go for graduate studies, generally you will be far more motivated because that's your decision. You have actually put in the effort. Most of the time you are sponsoring yourself as well. So automatically a lot of sort of everybody around me super motivated.
Yeah.
That basically meant that I was really putting in extra time, extra effort. At IIT it was most of the time, what is the minimum I need to do to sort of get somewhere. So I think very, very contrasting from peers' point of view. In terms of the people who are teaching you, Stanford is way, way ahead, right? Like the kind of people teaching you like is absolutely super hard for you to not put effort, right? In the first quarter, I was taught machine learning by Andrew Ng.
Yeah.
Right, like he's like the god of machine learning, right? Like he's founder of Coursera. He's the guy like who's teaching you in front of you, and it's absolutely impossible for you to feel that maybe I can miss a class, right? Or I'm not going to focus in the class. You just can't do it. Like when somebody like that is in front of you.
Yeah.
We were taught iOS development by somebody who was the first engineer at Apple working for iPhone. Right, he was actually working at Apple at that time as well, and he used to come and take our classes. He was the first engineer hired by Steve Jobs himself.
Yeah.
So again, somebody like that coming to your class and teaching you, like it's absolutely injustice, and you just can't do it that you will not put in the effort to actually learn from them.
You mentioned creating a strong group of your peers, network as well at Stanford, and has that helped you in your journey while you've been building coding ninjas here?
So yeah, I think that always helps, right? Like you don't really realize when the network is really helping you. Like for example, you're going for fundraise,
Yeah.
right? You will reach out to somebody that hey, connect me with that person. You might not consider like this person is coming from that network or that network, but like having a larger network, and the good part about going to a good college is automatically these people will end up doing so well.
Yeah.
So these peers will always help you out in different places. So I think that network always helps. One obvious difference is that because I moved back to India and majority of my network is in the US.
Yeah.
So any day I think of doing something in US, that network is going to become extremely powerful for
Yeah.
me. Yeah. So network I think is really, really underrated a lot of times, and they don't really realize the value right away.
Yeah. And I've also seen that a lot of, especially Indian students, don't leverage their network to the fullest because we are sort of hardwired not to, and be more introvert rather than extrovert. Is that something you observed as well, or is that a gross generalization?
See, I think one difference is that when you go for an undergrad and versus when you go for a graduate studies, right? At undergrad, you tend to be a little more easier to sort of, I think that generally people are easier to sort of mingle with others, right? When you go to like a university, you'll find like a lot of times graduate students tend to stick to Indian students tend to stick together. That won't be the case with undergrads, right? So I think that really is a difference in terms of how you build network in itself. It does become a little hard when you are when you've done your undergrad, you're going into graduate studies. Graduate studies tend to be a little more require a lot more effort as well. So that also sort of has an impact in terms of building that network. But I think that depends from person to person in terms of like whether you are able to really build that network or not.
Yeah.
I think like another hard part too is to sort of maintain that network, right? Like you can't just like know somebody and then not be in touch with them for years and then sort of ask for help, right? Like you need to sort of stay in touch with people, and that takes a lot of effort. I personally am really good at it. I think like I am generally somebody who would want to reach out to people, talk to them, figure out how they are doing, what is happening with them. If anybody sort of changes a job or gets funding for their startup, I generally try to make sure that I reach out to them, congratulate them, and like sort of have a discussion with them. So I think that really helps.
Yeah, and I also feel that a lot of times it's if you are more gregarious, more social by nature, it becomes easy for you.
Absolutely.
But even if it's not natural to you, it's something that's worthwhile forcing yourself to do. It's similar to how, at least me, I have to force myself to follow my fitness routine. I don't like it. What do you think about the importance of sort of forcing yourself even if you're not good at it?
So personally, right, like if I have to talk to a new person, that's a lot of effort for me.
Yeah.
What's not a lot of effort for me is to sort of staying in touch with people.
Yeah.
So the first one I actually had to do a lot of times, right? Like I'll reach out to new people. I'll try and talk to people. Like, so that's something that I always had to. The good part was that that's one step.
Yeah.
Then remaining things like I'm generally good at. Like I'm able to stay in touch. I'm able to sort of keep those relationships going. So I do feel it's very important for you to sort of push at least the first few times.
Yeah.
Once you do it few times, if you sort of realize it's very hard and like that's not something that you're naturally good at, it might still be okay to sort of take a step back on that and not sort of keep doing it. But like I think a lot of people realize that if you do it few times and you see the positives coming out of it, it becomes much easier.
Yeah.
It's like anything else, right? Like I'm not good at it a lot of times is just a combination of whether you really want to do it.
Yeah.
Have you seen the success? Once you get the success, it becomes easier for you to do it as well.
I fully agree. Yeah.